Those early experiences helped shape his conviction that dignity is not granted from above, it is insisted upon from below. After attending North Carolina A&T and then moving to Chicago for theological study, he found his life's vocation at the intersection of faith and public action, where sermons were not separate from organizing and hope was not a mood but a discipline. Into the movement, King, Chicago, and economic justice. Jackson's civil rights rise was closely tied to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He became a key figure in Operation Breadbasket, the SCLC's push for economic leverage, using boycotts and selective patronage to pressure companies to hire Black workers and do business in Black communities. King appointed him national director in 1967, and the work brought Jackson's distinctive style into focus, confrontational where necessary, transitional when effective, and always aimed at measurable change. This economic emphasis mattered. Jackson helped broaden the popular understanding of civil rights beyond lunch counters and voting booths toward jobs, contracts, wages, and the right to thrive. It was civil rights as a full life agenda. Operation Push, the Rainbow Idea, and the Art of Coalition. After King's assassination, Jackson emerged as one of the most prominent heirs to the movement's public leadership, though never a simple successor. Conflicts inside the SCLC eventually pushed him toward independent institution building. In 1971, he founded Operation Push, People United to Save, Serve Humanity, rooted in Black self-help, education, and economic opportunity. The rainbow concept, popularized nationally in the 1980s, captured another core Jackson legacy: coalition politics, that insisted marginalized groups share a common fate. His rainbow framework sought to bind together Black voters, labor, farmers, immigrants, and other constituencies often treated as separate single issue blocks. Over time, that coalition work became an enduring blueprint for democratic-era multi-ethnic organizing. Presidential runs that reshaped American politics. Jackson's presidential campaigns in 1984 and 1988 did not win the nomination, but they changed what seemed politically possible. His runs helped normalize the idea that a Black candidate could compete seriously on a national stage. And they pushed issues like voting rights enforcement, poverty, and global human rights into mainstream party debate. The National Urban League later described these campaigns as seismic shifts, noting that Jackson's performance opened doors for future leaders, including Barack Obama. Beyond America, public diplomacy and negotiated releases. Jackson also practiced a form of activist diplomacy, traveling internationally and negotiating with foreign leaders, sometimes controversially, often effectively. Public records and later reporting credited him with helping secure releases of detainees, including the 1984 return of U.S. Navy Lieutenant Robert Goodman from Syria. Whether one sees this as moral witness, political theater, or pragmatic negotiation, it reflected a consistent Jackson belief. Visibility can be a tool, sometimes the only tool, when conventional power refuses to move. His later years of activism, moving from presence to pressure. In his later decades, Jackson remained a reference point in American public life, showing up to March anniversaries, voting rights actions, labor fights, and civic flashpoints. He continued to argue that civil rights is not a chapter in a textbook, but a living struggle shaped by policy, courts, and who gets heard. Even near the end of his life, images of him at major public moments, frail, sometimes in a wheelchair, carried their own message. Movements age, but their claims do not. This next section, Jackson's battle with Parkinson and what it revealed, his diagnosis and the public turn toward awareness, covers trying to make people aware of Parkinson's disease and the disparity between the treatment that Black people receive as opposed to white people, mainly in the area of early diagnosis and providing medication compared to the delay in diagnosis with Black people and people of color. Also, the administration of medicines for Parkinson's disease. So this covers the next 2 or 3, maybe even 4, 5 paragraphs of the article. It also mentions Michael J. Fox and what he has done in the area of Parkinson's disease and what can be done to kind of strengthen or at least bring awareness of the disease in the Black community. The rich legacy he leaves behind. Jesse Jackson's legacy is too large to reduce to a slogan, but a few themes hold. Civil rights as economic power, pushing the movement into jobs, contracts, and corporate accountability. Coalitions as strategy, and I will say this. When we go and watch film and theater and movies, more often than not now in 2026, as opposed to earlier TV programs where Black people were portrayed as having a servant-like position in a white household or in a white business. Now, Black people are portrayed as, quote unquote, professionals, lawyers, doctors, and this is an obvious result of early efforts from that time period. Coalitions as strategy, and not only is it thought, it is real. Coalitions as strategy, not symbolism, insisting that political majorities are built, not found, by linking struggles. A transformed political horizon, demonstrating that Black national candidacies could be serious, competitive, and agenda setting. Public moral language, bringing the rhythms of the pulpit into civic life, making dignity feel speakable, especially for people told they were invisible. Recent reflections honoring Reverend Jackson. In the wake of Jackson's death at age 84, tributes emphasize both his historic impact and his personal mentorship. Reverend Al Sharpton called Jackson a mentor and a transformative leader who changed the nation and the world, crediting him with shaping public policy and inspiring people who came from hard beginnings. Bernice King, daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., wrote that Jackson helped create pathways where they did not exist, placing him in the lineage of builders who widened the roads for others. The Jackson family described him as a servant leader to the oppressed and overlooked, an intimate framing that matches how he long tried to present power, not as dominance, but as responsibility. The National Urban League honored him as a political and moral titan, emphasizing how his presidential campaigns shifted the landscape and helped clear space for later generations of leaders. These reflections coverage on a single idea. Jackson's greatest achievement may not have been one campaign or one negotiation, but the widening of American possibility, socially, politically, and psychologically. He made millions of people feel counted, and he pressured institutions to act like they believed it. So that concludes the article. So I thought that it was well written, well presented, the content was good and informative. So as we proceed, through this last week of February, Black History Month, I myself can recall some of the things that Jesse Jackson put out. Now I guess they're referred to as affirmations. And one of those was, I am somebody. And if we think of it, Black history, even though we're in Black History Month, is written every day. That's it. Hashtag.